When Triple H took over WWE after Vince McMahon stepped down, fans had big expectations, and for a while, the game delivered. But since the end of WrestleMania 40, WWE has been on a generational downward spiral that seems never-ending. You have a product that looks technically impressive, but feels emotionally hollow. There are no memorable stories, no compelling characters, and no reason to care about what happens next week. The magic that made us fall in love with wrestling has vanished. It has been replaced by corporate greed, hype moments with zero build or payoff, and a fundamental lack of what made wrestling great in the first place. So as a lifelong wrestling fan for 3 decades, here are 7 steps to bring back the magic, fix the WWE, and make it great again in 2026. The first change WWE needs to make isn't about flashy production or signing more stars, but a complete overhaul of their writing team and their priorities. For the past few years, WWE's priority has mostly been on shock moments, in-ring action, and good athletic matches. But those are not the things that make people fall in love with wrestling. People fall in love with wrestling because of a compelling story or a character they connect with. The Attitude Era didn't pull in millions of fans because of athletic in-ring action. It produced them because of characters and stories. Stone Cold was the ultimate anti-authority rebel. The Undertaker was a mythical dead man. Kane was his psychotic younger brother who set people on fire. These were characters that lived in your head, rent-free. WWE needs to shift its creative priority back toward that. Bring in people who understand the fundamentals of storytelling psychology. Of course, in a perfect world, I'd want Vince or Shane McMahon to take over creative again, but if that can't happen in TKO's WWE, give Paul Heyman the pen and let him lead the creative for the main event feuds. Let The Undertaker oversee the booking in the mid-card and women's divisions because he understands character work and has already proven it in AAA. These are the people who can bring back the focus on storytelling and characters that made wrestling fun. Because great wrestling was never just about what happened between the bells. It was about making you care before the bell even rang. But a great story needs an equally great cast of characters, and this brings us to the second change that needs to happen. One of the biggest problems with Triple H's booking is his inability to strike while the iron is hot. LA Knight's momentum got wasted. Gunther retired Cena and Styles, but then the writers had no idea what to do with that momentum. Triple H keeps relying on old stars and retirement tours instead of building new stars. Some of wrestling's most exciting times have been during the birth of a new star or character. Be it the rise of Austin, Cena, and Batista's rise in 2005, or Roman Reigns' rebirth as the Tribal Chief in the early 2020s. Today, you have stars like Obafemi, Trick Williams, Carmelo Hayes, LA Knight, who are ready for the big rocket push, but WWE isn't pulling the trigger. Make Obafemi the next big monster and make him a world champion before the end of the year. Let Trick and Melo have a generational feud like Triple H versus Shawn Michaels from 2002, and then move them to the WWE title picture. Roman Reigns, CM Punk, Cody Rhodes, these are megastars, but they won't be present forever. And if WWE hasn't built credible successors by the time that generation steps back, the transition is going to be painful. The time to build their successors is right now. Stop waiting and pull the trigger. And a fundamental change that needs to happen to let these new stars shine and give them the time and platform they need is to actually commit to a proper brand split. On paper, WWE has had a brand split for years, but in reality, it's a complete joke. Wrestlers appear on both shows whenever they wish. Champions cross brands without explanation. And as a result, neither Raw nor SmackDown has a real identity of its own. They feel like 2 versions of the same show, airing on different nights, with slightly different people. That needs to change completely. The brand split works when it creates 2 distinct universes that fans can invest in separately. Go back to 2005 and 2007. SmackDown had Batista, Taker, Rey Mysterio, and a wrestling-focused product with blue ropes, a different stage design, and an atmosphere that felt different from Raw. Raw had Edge, John Cena, Randy Orton, and DX operating in a louder, more chaotic environment with a more gritty vibe. They were different shows with different energy, different visual identities, and different emotional tones. To get back there, WWE needs to commit to the brand split completely. Start with the visual identity. Raw and SmackDown should look different the moment they're on screen. Different color schemes, different stage designs, different rope colors, different entrance aesthetics. These details sound small, but they play a major role in keeping the freshness of the product alive. Get rid of the corny opening themes and replace them with something more energetic, something more rock or metal that tells you you're about to watch a wrestling show, not a Disney high school drama. Interbrand appearances should feel like a big deal, reserved for special episodes or dedicated crossover shows. And speaking of special episodes, this is something that can inject new life into the weekly shows. All Elite Wrestling has Blood and Guts and Title Tuesday. TNA had Open Fight Night. Raw and SmackDown should be running shows like these regularly. 2 or 3 branded specials per show per year, with proper build-up that gives mid-card feuds a bigger stage and keeps the calendar exciting. It also solves one of the most persistent booking problems WWE has of giving feuds that deserve a proper payoff but can never get onto a PLE card because there simply isn't room. And finally, give each brand its own premium live events. 2 brands, 2 identities, 2 universes. That's what the brand split was always supposed to be. But in order for this to work, some serious changes need to be made to the roster. The WWE has a habit of signing talent the way someone hoards groceries before a storm. The result is a roster so bloated that talented performers spend months cycling through meaningless matches and directionless segments before quietly disappearing in the next round of releases. Just recently, you had Aleister Black, the Wyatt Six, Motor City Machine Guns, all of them leaving the company. This is what happens when you sign talent without any creative plan. Instead, keep the roster lean and focus on quality and character work instead of just filling spots. The women's roster is where this change would make the most sense. WWE has been running 2 mid-card women's titles across both brands, but the divisions supporting those titles are essentially empty. There aren't enough women with developed characters and meaningful storylines to sustain 4 distinct title pictures simultaneously. So what happens is that the titles get ignored for months, feuds get recycled, and the same 2 or 3 names end up carrying the entire brand while everyone else fades into the background. Instead, consolidate to 1 main women's championship and 1 women's tag championship per brand. Fewer titles means more competition for each one, which means fresh feuds and more opportunities for the talented women instead of just building the division around Rhea Ripley and Liv Morgan. Sign less, develop more. It's a slower approach, but it's the logical long-term play. And this de-bloating approach isn't just for the roster, the same can be applied to WrestleMania. There was a time when WrestleMania felt like a global event, like Christmas or New Year's. It wasn't just another big stadium show, but the destination that the entire year of storytelling was building toward. Every match on the card had a reason to exist, and the stakes felt appropriate to the occasion. Careers would end, new stars would be made. You'd have dream matches, you'd have insane moments. That feeling is largely gone now, and the 2-night format is a significant reason why. Splitting WrestleMania across 2 nights was a pandemic-era solution that WWE quietly made permanent because it doubled the revenue. 2 nights of ticket sales, 2 nights of network buys, 2 nights of advertising. The business logic is obvious, and the creative consequence is equally obvious if you're actually watching the shows. Night 1 is almost always the weaker card, filled with matches that exist to just fill spots rather than matches that deserve a WrestleMania stage. By the time Night 2 arrives, the audience has already sat through 3 or 4 hours of content that didn't need to be there. WrestleMania should be one night, 8 matches, carefully selected, with every single one of them earning its place on the card. If a match isn't big enough for a one-night WrestleMania, it shouldn't be on WrestleMania. The exclusivity is what makes the matches that do make the card feel important. This same logic applies to the broader PLE calendar. Triple H's premium live events have settled into a pattern of 4 long matches per show. The intention is quality over quantity, and that instinct isn't wrong. But 4 matches for the ticket prices being charged is simply not enough content. A 6 or 7 match card gives the main event and the secondary matches room to coexist without either feeling rushed or inflated. The Saturday night's main event situation also needs addressing. These shows were initially positioned as something special, but the more frequently they run, the more that specialness dilutes. When every other month produces another SNME, it stops feeling like a big event and starts feeling like a slightly fancier episode of Raw. The value of a special show is directly proportional to how rarely it happens. WWE needs to understand that less, in this case, is genuinely more. WrestleMania built its legacy by being the one night a year where everything mattered. It was the showcase of immortals, the grandest stage in wrestling. Protect that. Make sure only the biggest matches make it onto the card. Give WrestleMania the respect it deserves. However, none of this is possible without first fixing TKO's greed. There's a version of this conversation where you can separate WWE's creative product from its corporate ownership, but that version gets harder to maintain every year with TKO inserting Travis Scott, Pat McAfee, and Jelly Roll into major storylines. TKO's influence on WWE is visible in ways that go beyond boardroom decisions. It shows up on screen, in the experience of watching a show, in the sense that the product is being squeezed for every possible dollar, regardless of what that does to the viewing experience. Excess advertising has become one of the most consistent complaints from the fanbase, and for good reason. Ads on the ring mat, ads on the tables, 3 hours of ads on a 4-hour WrestleMania. The shows feel like a commercial billboard with wrestling happening in between, rather than the other way around. Ticket prices are the other side of the same coin. The astronomical cost of attending a live WWE event has been covered extensively, but the real damage isn't to the fans who complain about it online. The real damage is to the family that can't afford to take their kids to a show. Because that kid who doesn't go to a live event at 8 years old is significantly less likely to be a passionate fan at 18. The fanbase reproduces itself through live experiences, through the electricity of a crowd, through the memory of being in that building when something special happened. Price those experiences out of reach for an entire generation, and you're losing millions of future fans. TKO is getting the short-term win, but WWE is incurring the long-term loss. The celebrity involvement trend needs to be addressed too. A well-placed celebrity appearance has always had a place in wrestling, but when celebrity involvement becomes a regular feature of the show, it stops being a special moment and starts being a symptom of a product that doesn't trust its own performers. The stories, the characters, the wrestlers themselves should be the main attraction. Everything else is supplementary. The product doesn't need to be more polished or more expensive or more saturated with corporate partnerships. It just needs to have better stories and characters. A genuinely compelling wrestling show will generate more revenue, attract more viewers, and create long-term fans more effectively than any sponsorship deal or celebrity cameo. Build something worth watching first, the money will follow. That's how WWF won the Monday Night War. That's how it became the biggest wrestling company in the first place. And of course, apart from these, there are other key changes that can significantly upgrade the product. The most annoying creative flaw of Triple H right now is the slow tease. A feud gets hinted at for 8 months. A tag team split gets teased for half a year before anything actually happens. A wrestler getting loud crowd reactions collects losses for months, waiting for his big moment. By the time the moment arrives, the audience has already moved on. The iron cools fast in professional wrestling. When something is generating genuine crowd heat, that's the moment to act. Not 3 pay-per-views later when the story has run out of gas. House shows are another underused tool. Regular touring dates away from TV give wrestlers the chance to work through character details, timing, and match structures in front of live crowds. The current schedule leaves too little room for that kind of development, and it shows in the botches. Wrestlers sometimes feel underprepared for television moments that should be instinctive by now. And then there's the music. Theme songs used to be part of a wrestler's identity, something that told you exactly who was walking through that curtain before they even appeared on screen. Most of the current roster has generic music that could belong to anyone. Give wrestlers music that amplifies their character, and you give the audience one more reason to care. The common thread through all of this is the same one it's always been. Wrestling works when people believe in it, when the characters feel real, when the stories matter, when the show feels like something worth caring about. There's a version of WWE where you genuinely despise the villain, believe in the hero, and can't wait to see what happens next week on Raw. WWE still has the platform, the talent, and the resources to be that product. The question is whether the people making the decisions understand what they're actually making. Because TKO is focused on making a content platform that serves ads. They've forgotten that they're making professional wrestling. And professional wrestling, at its best, is unlike anything else in the world.